Hello everyone. What we have today is unboxing of the partially assembled ReFalcon keyboard. So let's get going. What do we have here? The big box from JLC PCB. Let's get it unboxed. Okay, interesting. Okay, this is completely new, designed from scratch keyboard that should fit as a drop-in replacement for ReFalcon and STF computers. What JLC did, they did the bare fab, and I also ordered surface mount component assembly, which includes many parts that have been through-hull on the original STF keyboard, but also I added the RGB backlighting for all the keys, and on the opposite side also backlighting for the case, which is I call the ambient lighting. As you can see on the perimeter of that board, we have many RGB LEDs installed. And they are individually addressable, which means eventually we should be able to control each one of those LEDs individually, create different RGB lighting effects. The only parts that have left to assemble are through-hole parts and of course all the cherry keys. But before we do that, let's do a quick check of the board fit into existing enclosure. For that, I need to remove the excess material on both sides of the PCB that was added by JLC to guide the board through the reflow oven. So let's get going. The excess material has been V-scored with the rest of the board, which allows very easy detachment without affecting the board itself. I'm using standard electrician pliers to do so. Okay. So this is the final shape of the board. Now we're gonna try to see if it fits on the real Falcon. So I do have a Falcon here handy. Let's remove the cover. Let's remove original keyboard. And before we drop it, let's see how this new board outline fits the original one. Looks very promising. The round notch seems to be in the right place. Okay. Well, keep in mind that the original keyboard has a completely different design. So it has the printed circuit board on the bottom, and it has a plastic backing, a stiffener enforcer on the top that also holds the membranes. With the Cherry, we no longer have to deal with the membranes, so every key is just a complete assembly, so there's no need to hold it to anything. However, this is standard 1.6 millimeter board, and as you can imagine, it's flexing. So besides this PCB, we're going to be needing a stiffener that has been in works already, and it's going to be made from material that will ensure the keyboard is as stiff as in original. So for now, let's try to see if we can drop it into cavity, and as we can see, it looks really nice. There's some slack there that we need, but it falls nicely between all the notches of the original design, and it doesn't fall in, doesn't fall through. That's important. That is excellent news. Keep in mind, I have been dimensioning this PC board using original computer and doing measurements. So turned out that was not for nothing. Of course, I was expecting, mistakes to happen, but so far it looks pretty good. Okay. How about we're going to check the actual Cherry switch fit into the PCB. What I have here is a box of Durock Ice King switch linear switches that I purchased on Amazon. These are completely transparent switches that will work nicely with the RGB backlight. The box has 110 of them, and we need 94 for the keyboard, so it's a bit of the access, which is always good. Okay, now let's see if that the switch footprint has been designed correctly. Specifically, that little LED that is right here is in the right place, because it took me quite some effort to make sure that this LED falls into a little cavity of that switch that is hard to see here because it's transparent material, but it basically should allow to push the switch all the way into the board without any restrictions. And what do we have here? We do have a perfect fit, which is excellent news. The switch is a bit loose. I thought we're going to have a bit of a friction between the centering kind of post and this hole, but this was the case for original Cherry switch. I suppose these switches, which are kind of third-party switches, have a little smaller post, so still fine. We would just have to hold them down when soldering. But nevertheless, what is nice is that the LED is completely inside the cavity of that switch. Okay. So now we need to populate all these switches. So it's going to take some time. And I'm not going to be boring you guys with that. I will start populating these. And return once it's all there in place. All right, how about special ReFalcon enclosure? Let's try it out. All right. Nice. Nice fit. Very good. By the way, I found one of the original cherry switches, and I want to show you that the footprint is actually correct, because when the original cherry switch is installed, it is a friction mount with a center post, and it keeps the switch upside down without falling. So this is all good. So there's no fear. It's just a bit of the annoyance during the actual assembly that we would have to hold all these transparent switches pressed down to solder properly. With the original cherry, there's no such problem. All right.